What happened to her? What do you mean she was shot?
She came behind me with a phone charger cord, and wrapped it around my throat. I was trying to choke me with it, but I had used kind of pushed her back.
In a News 3 follow-up, a Rincon woman is behind bars tonight after police say she shot a Savannah mother and stole her twin babies.
WSAB News 3's Alex Bazargian is hearing from friends of the victim and neighbors who knew the suspect and saw her arrest. That is tonight's top story.
On Tuesday, police were called to Roger's Savannah home on East 36th Street, where they say a woman shot her multiple times and then took off with her 6-week-old babies.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Truly Criminal Network. In May of 2021, 23-year-old Gabrielle Rogers gazed at her 6-week-old twin boys, Mateo and Lorenzo, as they slept peacefully in their cribs. Social media was filled with photos of their tiny hands and innocent faces, moments a proud new mother wanted to share with the world. For Gabby, these online communities weren't just places to post baby pictures. They were lifelines during the exhausting early weeks of motherhood. When you have newborns, especially twins, you're desperate for connection, says our crime analyst. The isolation can be overwhelming. Those 3 a.m. feedings, when everyone else is asleep, that's when online parent groups become your community. What Gabrielle couldn't have known was that someone was watching. Someone who had plans for her and her babies. Someone named Angela Montgomery. Angela Montgomery, also 23 from Rincon, Georgia, wasn't just scrolling through motherhood groups by chance. Her digital presence was methodical. She studied the patterns of new mothers, their vulnerabilities, their needs, their desperate desire for understanding. She noted which mothers appeared to have limited support systems, which ones were sleep-deprived, which ones might welcome a stranger into their home. And Gabrielle Rogers checked all those boxes. Montgomery's approach was subtle. A comment here. A supportive message there. My baby did the same thing. Have you tried this technique? Each interaction built a false sense of familiarity. Each conversation moved them closer to what appeared to be friendship. Online communities create unique vulnerabilities, explains our digital security expert. The normal barriers we have with strangers disappear faster. We share intimate details of our lives with people whose faces we've never seen. When someone responds with understanding, it creates a powerful bond, one that can be exploited. For weeks, Montgomery built this digital relationship. She positioned herself as a fellow mother who understood exactly what Gabrielle was experiencing. Their conversations moved from public forums to private messages. The foundation of trust grew stronger with each exchange. What made Montgomery's deception so effective was her attention to detail. She asked questions about the twins. She offered advice that seemed genuine. She shared what appeared to be personal struggles with her own child, a child who didn't exist. The fiction she created was complete and convincing. By early May, Montgomery suggested they meet in person. It would be nice to have another mom to talk to face-to-face, she wrote. Gabrielle, managing the exhaustion of caring for twin infants with limited support, welcomed the idea of adult conversation and understanding. They set a date, May 11th, 2021. Montgomery would come to Gabrielle's home on NE 36th Street in Savannah. They would have coffee. They would talk about their babies. It seemed so normal, so innocent. The night before their meeting, Gabrielle posted one last update about the twins. Looking forward to adult conversation tomorrow. New mom life, twin mom, blessed. This ordinary post would later become a critical timestamp in a criminal investigation. What Gabrielle couldn't see was the gun Montgomery had purchased. She couldn't know about the empty car seat waiting in Montgomery's white sedan. She couldn't anticipate that this online friend had spent weeks planning not just to visit, but to take everything from her. Social media creates a false sense of knowing someone, our investigator notes. We see profiles, we read messages, we build a mental image of who that person is. But that image can be completely manufactured. And by the time you discover the truth, it might be too late. As the morning of May 11th arrived, Gabrielle prepared her home for company. She dressed the twins in matching outfits. She made coffee. She tidied up toys and blankets. She opened her door to a woman she thought she knew. Hours later, that same door would be surrounded by police tape. Paramedics would rush a critically injured Gabrielle to the hospital with gunshot wounds to her head and chest. And her twin boys would be missing. This is the story of a digital deception that turned into a violent crime, of how quickly trust can be built online, and how devastatingly it can be betrayed in person, and of the remarkable law enforcement response that would unfold in the hours that followed. Before we continue with this shocking case, if you're finding this story as disturbing as I did, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring these important stories to light, raising awareness about online safety for parents and families. Hit that notification bell to stay updated with our newest true crime documentaries. Now, let's return to the morning of May 11th, 2021, and the horrifying events that were about to unfold. On the morning of May 11th, 2021, Angela Montgomery's white sedan pulled up to Gabrielle Rogers' home on NE 36th Street in Savannah, Georgia. From the outside, it appeared to be a simple visit between two mothers. Neighbors would later recall seeing a young woman carrying what looked like a diaper bag approach the front door around 10 a.m. Gabrielle welcomed Montgomery into her home. The twins, Mateo and Lorenzo, were awake and active, just 6 weeks old and completely dependent on their mother. The two women likely exchanged pleasantries, perhaps discussed the challenges of infant care, maybe even shared a cup of coffee. What happened next transformed a quiet morning into a violent attack that would shock the Savannah community. At approximately 10:20 a.m., the true nature of Montgomery's visit became clear. Without warning, she produced a .40 caliber handgun. According to police reports, Montgomery fired multiple shots at Gabrielle, targeting her head and chest in what investigators would later describe as a direct attempt to end her life. The attack was not random or impulsive, stated the lead detective. This was a planned assault with clear intentions. The shooter made no attempt to conceal her actions. As Gabrielle collapsed from her wounds, bleeding profusely onto her living room floor, Montgomery moved to the next phase of her plan. She took both infants from their nursery, secured them, and carried them from the home, leaving Gabrielle for dead. The sounds of gunshots echoed through the neighborhood. Multiple residents called 911, reporting loud noises and unusual activity. One neighbor, who requested anonymity, told police, "I heard what sounded like firecrackers, then a car speeding away. I knew something wasn't right." Another resident observed Montgomery placing what appeared to be baby carriers into her white sedan before driving away at high speed. This witness's description of the vehicle would prove crucial in the hours that followed. First responders arrived within minutes of the emergency calls. Savannah Police Department officers were the first on scene, entering Gabrielle's home to find a horrific sight. The young mother unconscious, bleeding severely from multiple gunshot wounds, and her infants nowhere to be found. Officer Johnson was first through the door, reported the police commander. He immediately began life-saving measures while calling for medical backup. His quick action was the first link in a chain that ultimately saved Ms. Rogers' life. Emergency medical technicians arrived moments later, working frantically to stabilize Gabrielle. The severity of her injuries was immediately apparent. Gunshot wounds to her head and chest had caused critical damage. As paramedics fought to keep her alive, police officers established a perimeter and began collecting evidence. We found shell casings, blood spatter patterns, and signs of the children's removal, noted the evidence technician. Every element pointed to a premeditated attack, followed by a planned abduction. The .40 caliber handgun was recovered at the scene, a critical piece of evidence that would later connect Montgomery to the crime through ballistics and fingerprint analysis. As Gabrielle was rushed to the nearby hospital in critical condition, Savannah Police Department officials realized they were facing both an attempted murder and a double kidnapping. The clock was ticking for the twin boys, who required specialized infant care. Police Captain Thomas described the scene. "In my 20 years on the force, few crime scenes have conveyed such clear intent. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong or an argument that escalated. This was someone who came with the purpose of shooting this young woman and taking her children. Within 30 minutes of the initial 911 calls, law enforcement activated protocols for both a violent crime investigation and an urgent child abduction response. Evidence teams photographed and documented the scene while detectives interviewed neighbors who had witnessed Montgomery's arrival or departure. The most pressing concern remained the missing infants. Given their age, just 6 weeks old, they required specific care, feeding, and medical attention. Every passing minute heightened the urgency of the search. When we realized we had missing newborns, every available resource shifted toward their recovery, explained the police spokesperson. These were vulnerable infants who needed to be found immediately. By noon, less than 2 hours after the attack, Savannah police had gathered enough information to identify Angela Montgomery as their prime suspect. They had a name, a vehicle description, and a direction of travel. What they didn't yet know was why this 23-year-old woman from Rincon had targeted Gabrielle Rogers and her infant sons. As Gabrielle fought for her life in emergency surgery, police launched the next critical phase of their response: an Amber Alert for the missing twins and a multi-agency manhunt for their abductor. As medical teams worked to save Gabrielle Rogers' life, she remained unconscious, her condition labeled as critical. The trauma surgeons confronted multiple gunshot wounds, injuries to both her head and chest that required immediate intervention. Her survival hung in the balance as medical professionals worked against impossible odds. The first 24 hours would determine everything, explained the trauma specialist assigned to her case. With injuries this severe, every minute counts. Meanwhile, law enforcement launched a full-scale response focused on finding the missing infants. The Savannah Police Department immediately initiated an Amber Alert for Mateo and Lorenzo Rogers. The alert contained critical details: 6-week-old twin boys, last seen with a woman identified as Angela Montgomery, traveling in a white sedan, direction of travel possibly toward Rincon, Georgia. The alert system broadcast this information across Georgia's emergency channels, highway notification boards, radio stations, and mobile phones throughout the region. Every passing driver, every phone user, and every law enforcement officer in multiple counties now had eyes open for the vehicle and the infants. An Amber Alert is our most powerful tool when children are abducted, explained the FBI liaison who joined the investigation. It transforms every citizen into a potential witness and dramatically increases our search capacity. Back at Gabrielle's home, forensic teams meticulously processed the crime scene. They photographed blood pattern evidence, collected shell casings, secured the recovered firearm, and documented every detail of the home's condition. Each piece of evidence told part of the story, from the entry point to the struggle to the final shots fired. The physical evidence gave us a clear timeline, noted the lead evidence technician. We could reconstruct exactly what happened in that house and how it happened. Fingerprints lifted from surfaces throughout the home would later confirm Montgomery's presence. Ballistics tests would match the recovered weapon to the ammunition used in the shooting. The methodical approach to evidence collection built an airtight case even as the search for the twins intensified. The investigation rapidly expanded beyond Savannah. The Effingham County Sheriff's Office joined the effort alongside specialized units from surrounding jurisdictions. Law enforcement established checkpoints on major roads leading from Savannah to Rincon. Helicopter units took to the air, scanning highways and rural routes for any sign of Montgomery's vehicle. This wasn't just one agency working alone, the Savannah police chief emphasized. This was a coordinated response across multiple departments with a single goal: find those babies. As the physical search expanded, digital investigators dove into Montgomery's online presence. They gained emergency access to the social media platforms where Montgomery had communicated with Gabrielle. What they found revealed months of planning. Montgomery had joined multiple parenting groups, not just the one where she met Gabrielle. She had attempted similar connections with other new mothers in the region. Her messages showed a pattern: identifying isolated mothers, building trust, suggesting in-person meetings. The digital evidence exposed the scope of her planning, the cybercrimes detective reported. This wasn't impulsive. She had researched Gabrielle thoroughly, including her home location, her daily routines, and details about her children. Investigators discovered Montgomery had searched online for information about twins, infant care, and even how to transport newborns safely. Searches conducted weeks before the attack. They found maps of Savannah with Gabrielle's neighborhood marked. Everything pointed to extensive preparation. The social media communications between Montgomery and Gabrielle provided a detailed record of how trust was established. Messages that once seemed innocent, questions about the twins, discussions about feeding schedules, offers of support, now revealed themselves as calculated steps toward gaining access to Gabrielle's home. By mid-afternoon, just hours after the shooting, investigators had assembled a comprehensive profile of Angela Montgomery and predicted her likely movements. They narrowed the search area to specific locations in Rincon, Georgia, where she might seek refuge. As specialized SWAT units mobilized toward these locations, Gabrielle Rogers remained in surgery, her sister, Brianna Young, arriving at the hospital to find doctors still fighting to save her life. The family faced an unthinkable dual crisis, a loved one critically injured and 2 infants missing. If you're following this case closely, we're about to reveal how law enforcement tracked down Angela Montgomery and what they discovered when they found her. This next part of the story demonstrates the remarkable coordination between agencies that led to the recovery of the twins. Hit that like button now and leave a comment below about what you think motivated this shocking crime. Your engagement helps us continue bringing these important stories to light. Now, let's return to the manhunt that was closing in on Angela Montgomery. The search for Angela Montgomery and the missing twins intensified as afternoon turned to evening on May 11, 2021. Highway patrol officers stationed at key intersections between Savannah and Rincon kept watch for the white sedan described in the Amber Alert. Their vigilance paid off when a patrol unit spotted a vehicle matching the description traveling north on Highway 21. We received confirmation of a visual match at approximately 3:40 p.m. The Highway Patrol commander later reported. The vehicle was moving at normal speed, not drawing attention to itself. This allowed us to coordinate a strategic response rather than initiating a high-speed pursuit. Law enforcement tracked the sedan to Rincon, Georgia, maintaining surveillance from a safe distance. The vehicle eventually turned onto a residential street and parked at a private residence. Intelligence teams quickly established that the property had connections to Montgomery, making it a probable hideout location. As the white sedan's location was confirmed, specialized tactical teams from the Effingham County Sheriff's Office and Savannah Police Department mobilized to the scene. They established a secure perimeter around the residence, blocking potential escape routes while keeping a low profile to avoid alerting the suspect. Our primary concern was the safety of those infants, explained the SWAT team commander. Every decision we made prioritized their well-being. We needed a swift entry, but couldn't risk any action that might endanger the children. The tactical teams developed a multi-point entry plan designed to secure access to all areas of the residence simultaneously. Officers in specialized gear took positions around the property, maintaining communication through secure channels. Medical personnel stood by, prepared to immediately assess the condition of the twins once recovered. At 5:15 p.m., less than 7 hours after the shooting in Savannah, SWAT teams executed their coordinated entry. They moved with precision through the residence, securing each room methodically until they located Montgomery in a back bedroom. What they discovered next brought immediate relief to the entire search operation. Mateo and Lorenzo were alive and appeared unharmed. The twins were found in makeshift bedding, still wearing the same clothes they had on when taken from their mother's home hours earlier. Finding those babies safe was the moment every officer had been working toward, said one of the first responders at the scene. In these situations, time works against us. The fact that we located them so quickly, in good condition, was the outcome we had hoped for but couldn't count on. Medical personnel immediately examined the infants, confirming they were in stable condition with no apparent injuries or signs of distress. The twins were temporarily placed under protective custody, while arrangements were made to reunite them with family members. Angela Montgomery offered no resistance during the arrest. Officers secured her and transported her to the Effingham County Jail for processing. The evidence collection team arrived to process the residence, gathering additional materials that would further establish Montgomery's premeditation and intent. Inside the residence, investigators discovered baby supplies that had been purchased in advance, formula, diapers, and infant clothing still in store packaging. These items supported the conclusion that Montgomery had planned not just the abduction, but also the subsequent care of the infants. The preparation involved was extensive, noted the lead detective. This wasn't a spontaneous act, but something developed over time with clear intention. By 7 p.m., Montgomery faced her initial charges: aggravated assault, criminal attempt to commit murder, and 2 counts of kidnapping. The severity of these charges reflected both the attack on Gabrielle and the abduction of her children. During the preliminary processing, Montgomery remained largely silent, declining to provide statements about her motivations or planning. As Montgomery was processed into the justice system, attention returned to Gabrielle Rogers, who remained in critical condition. Doctors had completed initial surgeries to address the most life-threatening injuries, but her prognosis remained uncertain. The recovered twins were soon reunited with Gabrielle's sister, Brianna Young, who stepped forward as their temporary caregiver while their mother fought for recovery. The family gathered at the hospital, maintaining vigil while also caring for the infants who had experienced a day of trauma no one could have anticipated. Law enforcement officials held a brief press conference that evening, confirming the successful recovery of the twins and the arrest of the suspect. They credited the rapid resolution to exceptional interagency cooperation and the immediate activation of the Amber Alert system. Today demonstrated how effectively our systems can work when every component functions as designed, the Savannah Police Chief stated. From the initial response to the final arrest, this represents law enforcement at its most coordinated and effective. The legal process for Angela Montgomery began immediately following her arrest on May 11, 2021. At her initial bond hearing, prosecutors presented evidence of the premeditated nature of her actions, leading the judge to deny bail. As court proceedings advanced, Montgomery's defense team requested a comprehensive mental health evaluation, suggesting her actions were influenced by psychological factors. The court takes these evaluations very seriously, explained the judicial analyst following the case. They help determine not just guilt or innocence, but the defendant's state of mind during the commission of the crime. In July 2021, a grand jury reviewed the evidence collected from both the crime scene and Montgomery's residence, along with the digital communications between Montgomery and Gabrielle. They returned a formal indictment on all counts: aggravated assault, criminal attempt to commit murder, and 2 counts of kidnapping. The case moved to trial in late 2023, where Montgomery's defense entered an unusual plea: guilty but mentally ill. This legal designation acknowledges criminal responsibility while recognizing the influence of psychological conditions on the defendant's actions. During court proceedings, prosecutors presented the timeline of events, emphasizing how Montgomery had used the Facebook Mothers group to gain Gabrielle's trust over several weeks. They showed evidence of her online research, the weapon acquisition, and her preparation for taking the infants. Digital forensics experts testified about the calculated nature of Montgomery's online persona. On November 8, 2023, the court delivered its verdict and sentence. Montgomery received 30 years in prison for the charges related to criminal attempt to commit murder and aggravated assault. Additionally, she received concurrent 20-year terms for each kidnapping count, followed by life probation. The judge noted during sentencing, while the court acknowledges the defendant's mental health challenges, the heinous nature of these crimes demands significant consequences. This sentence reflects both the gravity of the offense and the need to protect society. Throughout the legal proceedings, Gabrielle Rogers faced her own battle, recovering from near-fatal injuries. Her Her journey from critical condition to rehabilitation represented what medical professionals described as remarkable resilience. Initially unable to care for her children due to her injuries, Gabrielle gradually regained strength with the support of her sister, Brianna Young, who took on temporary custody of the twins. Each day brought new progress. A family spokesperson shared, "Her determination to reunite with her sons drove her recovery in ways that impressed even the most experienced medical staff." The reunion between Gabrielle and her twins became a powerful symbol of healing for the Savannah community. As she recovered physically, she also worked through the psychological trauma of betrayal and violence, focusing her energy on creating a safe future for her family. The case sparked immediate responses within online parenting communities. Group administrators implemented stronger verification processes. New guidelines emerged for transitioning online connections to in-person meetings. Parent organizations hosted workshops on digital safety, emphasizing the importance of verifying identities before sharing personal information or meeting offline. This case highlighted vulnerabilities we hadn't fully addressed. Noted one platform safety director. We now recommend multiple video conversations before any in-person meetings and suggest first meetings occur in public places with additional family members present. Law enforcement agencies across Georgia developed new protocols for monitoring potentially dangerous activities in online groups focused on vulnerable populations. The Savannah Police Department created a specialized digital safety unit dedicated to preventing similar crimes through education and monitoring. The psychological aspects of the case became a focus for mental health professionals. The guilty but mentally ill designation prompted discussions about preventative interventions and early warning systems that might identify potentially dangerous individuals before violence occurs. For Gabrielle and her family, the impact remains deeply personal. While privacy has been a priority during her recovery, her experience has informed safety protocols and inspired community-based initiatives supporting new parents. Local organizations now offer in-person support groups, verified home visit programs, and emergency assistance specifically designed for families with newborns. The Angela Montgomery case ultimately stands as a powerful reminder of both danger and resilience. It demonstrates how digital spaces can harbor hidden threats while also showcasing how communities, law enforcement, and individuals can respond to tragedy with meaningful change and support. As these systems continue to evolve, the lessons from this case remain relevant for anyone navigating online relationships, particularly those in vulnerable positions like new parenthood. If this story has impacted you, as it has so many others, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support allows us to continue investigating these important cases and sharing the lessons that can keep our communities safer. Hit the notification bell to stay updated on our newest true crime documentaries. Thank you for watching. TikToker befriends new mom online, then shoots her and vanishes with her twin babies. We'll be back next week with another compelling true crime story.